From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, welcome back to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, August 23rd. I'm going to be filming this outside, so if you do hear the birds in the background, please disregard them. It's just a beautiful morning again. Another wonderful weekend. We have a lot of these weekends this summer where we had just fantastic weather. We really can't complain about the weather, and we're under that once again. I want to start off this video today with Tropical Storm Danny. This is now a tropical storm. And it is, by National Hurricane Center projections, expected to affect the northern part of the Leeward Islands here, perhaps Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and the National Hurricane Center has this dissipating. I'm not completely sold on the idea of this dissipating. I do think this is going to be on the northern fringe of the islands here, so you might have some re-intensification once it gets out of the sheer environment that it's been under here for the past 36 hours or so, which is taking this thing from a major hurricane all the way down to tropical storm strength. Why are we paying attention to it? Some models actually have this coming dangerously close to the coastline. Not any direct impacts. I don't want to scare anybody here. But we do have some models that are indicating that it will come close to the coastline, and I mean in our latitude. So here's the National Hurricane official projection. Has it going as a tropical storm across the northern Leeward Islands, heading right through the core of the central portion here of the Caribbean islands here across Puerto Rico, as a depression at this point, and then a post-tropical system here as it gets north of the islands here, and then kind of goes out in this direction here. Really don't think this is going to be the track ultimately. I do think we're going to end up being on the northern end of things here, and just kind of, it might hit the northeast portion of Puerto Rico here. I think it stays north of the islands here. Stays weak through this entire period. I don't disagree with the intensity here, except that I wouldn't call it post-tropical here at this point, since it's staying north. I would keep this as a depression. Re-intensifies east of the Bahamas, and very slowly makes its way up in this direction like this. We're seeing more and more models indicate that being the possibility, so we're going to keep this a close eye on this for those of you that have travel plans, maybe a cruise up. I've heard of a couple people on our Facebook page that they have cruises that they're looking to take here, so this could definitely impact that. May affect the Jersey coastline and the Delaware coastline here with some pretty strong rip currents here if this does get going and come up the coast here. So we go to the model projections now. These are the ensembles. Model ensembles are a group of like every model that projects these storms, and you see the general idea here with these with the swath of the path here takes it right here again, mostly north of the islands here. And then it's a very slow process. This is actually taking its time over 6 or 7 days by the time it gets up here in this area here. From there's still some question marks here, but I do think that it's going to end up coming up to the north here and come very, very close, very, very close. We're going to have to keep an eye on this and head out in this direction, eventually turn northeast. But you see that's awfully close here to the New Jersey and Delaware coastline, so we obviously have some vested interest in this system. I'm going to go over to one of our hurricane specialty models we look at. This is the GFDL. This model is and has had a history of being pretty darn accurate with both the track and the intensity forecast. It was the only model to forecast that once it was out here, we'd have a major hurricane. And we did actually have this as a major hurricane at one point once it was in favorable waters. Then, of course, it hit that shear. When you have the shear coming in from the west like this, kind of ripped it apart. And now we're dealing with a tropical storm here as of the time of the video this morning here on Sunday morning. So it's expected to continue weak through these just north of the islands here, which is good because it's impacting the northern Lesser Antilles Islands, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico really needs some rainfall. I don't know if anybody's been following that down here, but they're really behind in rainfall. So this is something that we're definitely keeping an eye on for them too, because they definitely need some rain. But it looks like it stays weak all the way up until it gets to the eastern side of the Bahamas here, and then it looks like it's going to re-intensify. You see this lighter greens here. This is a measure of the winds, the maximum wind speeds. Once it gets up in here, we start getting into this higher scale numbers here, and it actually regenerates into a very formidable Category 2 or possibly 3 major hurricane sitting not too far off the coast here from the Carolinas. So taking another look at one of our global models here, and it does something very similar as the GFDL, and you see how close this is. This is at max range at day 10, so this is still over a week away. We have plenty of time to look at this. This is at day 10 now from now. This right here is your center of circulation, 975 millibars reported, probably right on the teetering point of strong category 2 and a major hurricane category 3. Now this is sitting out here in this direction. At this point on this model, it's still coming to the north. I do think it does one of these numbers though eventually and heads out in this direction. So there are some vested interests. If you have even a category 2 hurricane sitting right here, that's not too far from the coastline here. You would have some serious impacts here along the ocean, or along the beaches here, with some serious rip currents. Obviously not a good day to be at the beach. Not saying you'd have any rain or impacts like that, but you could have some serious swells and possibly some beach erosion, even if it's sitting out here, not affecting your area. So it doesn't have to directly impact the Jersey Shore or Delaware beaches all the way down Ocean City, Maryland, Carolinas, places like that. You'll still feel the effects from the waves that will just be eating away at the beach, and not a good day to be on the beach at all. So again, this is going to be, at this point, if it got up here, would probably be about 11 days from now. So we got some time here. We got some time to see where this is going to go. There are models that are saying this is not going to get organized and it's just going to be a weak wave, and that's very possible too. But we're just going to keep an eye on it. That's the only point of addressing this so far. I do want to get into the second half of the video here, and this is the El Nino watch. We've been looking at this on a weekly basis just to see what we're headed to here. A lot of talk about a big Godzilla, El Nino. One of the strongest we've ever seen, and they're comparing it to 1997, and people are looking at that and saying, well, what happened in 1997 as far as winter is concerned? Everybody's worried about winter. What's going to happen in winter? A lot of different variables go into that, so I really don't want to get too much into the winter here. I'm going to discuss the fall outlook and what we're looking at for the fall of 2015. I think we have a pretty good handle on how that's going to transpire, and we have some analogs that we use, our two closest analogs, which we'll discuss in a moment. But we look at this on a weekly basis, sometimes more often than that. If you want a good winter, you're going to want your best warming to kind of be in this area right here. And right now we're seeing the best warming rate in this area, as opposed to being further east in this area. If it's out here, you can just write off winter. Okay, right now, this is where it's at. Okay, your best warming for the El Nino is right in this area here. You can see that by these warmer temperatures here. It's a little bit cooler here. So the trend here over the last week or so anyway, here's the weekly trends that we're looking at. The trends have been to increase Nino 3.4, which is this area here that I just highlighted right here. This is the increase in temperature here. Okay, that's Nino 3.4. And then we also have decreased by a couple tenths of a degree Celsius in terms of temperatures above or below normal. They're all above. That's why they're all positive numbers here. But Nino 1 and 2 over in this area, which is going to be further east, has cooled slightly. So this is a variable that's going to keep changing and changing and changing. This isn't a matter of like, oh well, it's trending in one way or another. You can't make a trend based on what it does in 1 week. So we'll keep an eye on this, see where it goes. I do think it's going to continue to rise though. So where the projections of this being a strong El Nino, I think, are very valid. I do think we get into the strong El Nino category here. Most of the models are taking here's your center point right here, and there's a peak, and then it starts to drop down. After that, this point, these are all a measure of what the models are saying, and this is the mean or average, whatever you want to call it, where it's going to get. So we do get up here in the strong Nino territory. This is definitely a strong El Nino here at this point at its peak. And if we go right down here to see where that peak point is, this is the middle of fall. So I do expect the middle of fall, maybe even as far as it might even go to November where it peaks. I think somewhere in October, mid-October to mid-November it peaks. Okay, and then we start to decline. So by the time we get into our core months of winter, which are January, February, March, right here, January, February, March, we're sitting right here. This is now a moderate Nino. So we're starting off here at strong, and it's going to decline down to the January, February, March time frame here being a moderate El Nino. Still obviously a moderate El Nino at this point could have implications on our weather as far as, do we start off mild in the winter and then go to a pretty hectic end here in February, March? That's what we're leaning towards right now. We had to make a call, but it's still too early to call that. I mean, the winter's still quite a bit far away. There's a reason why we don't put out our winter outlook until the second week in November. We want to see how this works out, and we want to start seeing that decline by that point. By the time we're putting outlook, if we are seeing a decline in the El Nino at that point, then we'll know that we'll get a better idea of where we're headed. As far as the autumn is concerned, we do have a breakdown by month of what we're using. Now, this is based on our closest matches of the analogs. This is based on the current ENSO, also the quasi-biennial oscillation, which is your measure of your stratospheric winds at the equator, whether it be easterly or westerly. So the closest matches that we're looking at so far are the fall of 1987 and fall of 1957. They pretty much did the same thing as far as how the fall behaved, and that's why we're confident on how the fall will transpire. We're going to have our fall outlook out at some point during this week, the official seasonal outlook. But just to just give you a preview for those of you watching the video, just what we're looking at here. Looks like for the most part in our coverage area here for both years, so 1957, 1987, our two closest analog year match years, we have a slightly above normal temperatures regime here in the month of September. Both years. So really and that's kind of like what we're looking at, some other long-range models and guidance and things like that we're looking at right now. This matches pretty well to what we were thinking anyway. So we'll go with slightly above normal temperatures here in the month of September. Going into October, though, both years had a below average temperatures here. Actually, much of the southeastern United States is well below average. But in our area here, we're below average for the month of October. I do think we take a step back and we go below average, and I don't want anybody thinking, well, here we go. I remember the Halloween snowstorm we had in 2011. Does that mean we're going to get one of those again? Probably not. Probably not. That's a 1 in 100 year deal. Of course, not impossible, but just because it says below average, you got to remember average temperatures for October are still in the 50s, 60s. So we're not looking at just because it's below normal doesn't mean you're going to be in the 30s and snowing. I mean, that's kind of pushing the envelope there. But I think right now we're looking at a below normal October this year based on those analogs as well. And then we get into November, and it kind of can go either way. Every time we're doing a seasonal outlook, your most difficult month is the one that's the farthest out from where you are right now, obviously. But the majority of our analogs we actually introduced some more analogs besides 1987, 1957, just because there's some uncertainties on how this will transpire, when El Nino will peak, what the quasi-biennial oscillation values will be at that time. So right now, with our closest analogs being 57 and 87, we also introduced 2006 and 1982 into this equation, just because we need to see what the El Nino does, and so we don't want to just limit to the two in the month of November, but we do have the majority of them all agreeing that we're going to be above normal here temperature-wise in the Northeast in November. So I do think that carries into December. Right? Also, I didn't include that here because that's not part of our fall outlook, but I do think we do end up above normal in December as well. So if you got to get me to guess right now what winter's going to do, honestly think it's going to start off warm. November, December are warm. January could be one of those transition months. It might start off warm. It might transition at some point during the month to a little bit more consistently colder regime. And I think you might be in for a wild ride, possibly similar to 1957, 1958 as we get into February and March, where you can make up for some lost ground in a hurry. Might even have, because you have an El Nino here, you have more moisture to work with the southern jet, so you might have some blocking up here in Greenland. You might get some storms that turn the coast. You might get some pretty good storms. Even the winter of 1982, 1983, we had that happen, where we just had just a very lackluster winter, and then we had one big storm, one big blizzard that just changes everything. So it doesn't have to be snow every other day. I think if you don't like snow, you really are going to like this winter coming up here, because I don't think the chances for snow are going to be that great, but when you get them, you can really get them. So I think, again, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. I really don't want to jump into one way or another any conclusions as far as how this is going to work out, because it can go to a lot of different ways yet. That's why we're not releasing it a winter outlook any time before the second week of November. I do want to show you, though, when we're looking at winter here. Now, this is taking a look at Philadelphia. This is freely available from the National Weather Service, Mount Holly, and they have a breakdown here of Philadelphia winters by ENSO state. This is looking at the period of for the 1949-1950 winter through 2009-2010. There were, to key in on a couple things here, the moderate and strong El Nino winters. They're right here. Okay, strong El Nino. There's been 6 winters, even though that there were 6. There's only 6 winters in that history. There, everybody thinks that we have a strong El Nino. That means nothing to snow. Well, look at the average snowfall for Philadelphia. Now, this is Philadelphia. Obviously, north and west of Philadelphia has a better chance because you're climatologically colder than Philadelphia is. Strong winters produce 27 inches on average of snow per year. Now, average in Philadelphia is somewhere right around 19, 20 inches, so that's above normal. Same thing with a moderate El Nino, 24.3 average, 8 winters figured in that average. So you can have that. Also down here at the bottom here, we have moderate, here's the moderate winters, El Nino winters. There's 8 of those, 6 winters of strong El Nino. And these are how many events that you had that produced. In a strong El Nino, if it does hold up to be strong, you had 8 total events that were 6 inches or greater, and 6 of those 8 were 10 inches or greater. So you had some very significant storm potential. So I just want to give anybody the idea that I hear a lot of people reading about this. Well, winter's done. Look at 97, 98. Well, 97, 98 is not really one of our analogs or one of our closest analogs. It's not really matching some of the things we're looking at right now, but I hear a lot of people throwing that out there because of how strong the El Nino is getting and how it's going to challenge the 97, 98 winter with this Godzilla El Nino everybody's talking about. I don't think it's following that with the other factors involved, but 97, 98 had virtually no snow in our area, and I think that's where a lot of people are assuming, and assuming incorrectly, that that's how this winter is going to go as well. I do think it starts off warm, I'll grant you that, but after that point, I think we're going to have a transition point, and then we're going to go into perhaps a final 4, 6, 8 weeks of winter that lasts in the early spring with colder than normal temperatures and the potential for some bigger storms. So we'll keep an eye on that. This is not something we're going to get into too quickly right now. I just want to mention this just so to kind of set the record straight with that. And anything we do leading up to winter, we're going to be discussing in our EPAWA forum. So if you do want to check that out and subscribe to the forum here, we'll be on top of that information as we get it. And update that weekly. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this edition of Weather Weeklies for August 23rd, 2015. Have a great week.